Have you ever found yourself scrolling Airbnb, middle of the night, watching YouTube videos about small little European villages that you could buy a €1 house in, and then you would just leave it all behind, move there, and live the simple life? Is it just me, or have you done this as well? What if I just left it all behind? Maybe your fantasy is more subtle. Maybe you just get an extreme haircut. Maybe you dye your hair a certain color. You go and do an extreme makeover. But there's something gnawing at you where you feel like it's time to make a change. And you're not really sure what that change is, but you just know you've got this feeling and something needs to change. Welcome back, everyone, to a Mindset Medicine podcast. I am your host, Katharine Loucaidou. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I am a past professor in university. I've done a lot in my life so far. And one of those things that I have done is reinvented myself multiple times over the last 30 years, which is why this is one of my favorite topics. It is what I coach people on because we have this word reinvention, but what does it actually mean? To me, it means that we no longer feel comfortable in the past version of ourselves. So we keep on living this story that started 10 years ago, for example. You started a business 10 years ago. Maybe you've been in a career for the last 15 years and you've achieved success. You're a high achieving individual. And what you've noticed is that it just doesn't feel the same anymore. Like that success doesn't feel like that's what's driving you forward. Have you felt like that? Where you're just different. And what used to drive you doesn't drive you anymore. So I feel like there are days where you are mentally rebranding yourself. You think to yourself, if only I could, right? This is what I would do if. Um, you may even have gone so far as to go on the computer and type in owning a cafe on a tropical island, or opening a restaurant or a bookstore or something that you've had this little idea, or you think to yourself, well, I could become a food critic and travel around the world, or I could become a travel vlogger, leave all this behind and go and just travel the world, be a digital nomad and live life like that. Have any of these ideas ever crossed your mind because you're trying to move away from the way that you have been living, or you're trying to move toward something different? So today we're going to talk about how to reinvent your life in 3 months. Are you in? Does this make you curious? Are you interested in what that would look like? Because that is what I coach people on. I created a method called the Bold Move Method. And in 90 days, I can literally move you from where you are now to where you want to be. And I don't mean physically, but I will show you the plan, the blueprint, how to wrap your mind around the clarity that you need to have, the clearing that you need to do of some old thoughts and ideas that you may have that have been holding you back, and the type of mindset that you're going to need to have to move forward to this new chapter that you want to create for yourself, because it's all doable, all of it. But there needs to be clarity, confidence, courage, a strategy, and a plan that is foolproof. And it's not only foolproof, it's future proof. How do we create a sustainable plan for our future in a direction that we haven't gone before? For you, it may feel uncertain, but I know how to do it because I've done it multiple times. So here's the thing. There are these thoughts that surround these new revelations that we have. And sometimes we can think to ourselves, am I burnt out? Am I crazy for wanting to just give it all up and do something different? The reason I say that is because I too have had those thoughts, running a real estate brokerage, or I was in the teaching industry. I was an educator in university. I got paid very well. Why would I give all that up to go into sales, real estate sales? And then when in real estate sales, why would I expand or extend myself and open a real estate brokerage? And then in opening a brokerage, why would I open multiple offices? And then from there, why would I become a coach? Don't I have enough on my plate? Why am I making my life so difficult? These are some of the thoughts that can go through your mind when you are thinking about making a bold move forward, when you're thinking about reinventing who you are, because you're just in a different place in life. And guess what? You're allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to evolve and grow into the next version of yourself. The thing is that we're not taught this, and we're not raised this way to think that it's okay to change a career, change a profession, change our business ideas. Many of us grew up where your parent had the same job for 40 years. And then the next generation seems to change jobs every 5 years. And then the next generation actually doesn't even see why they need to have a stable job in an office. I'm just going to travel the world, and that's okay. And I don't really care what you think. So it's very interesting how each generation, and I'm going to say coming after me even, sees work life so much differently. They're not sacrificing their life for work like I have, like my parents and grandparents have. Have you noticed that? I think they're getting it right. And I think that we are learning how to get it right. And that's why I became a coach, helping people to reinvent, helping people in business to change the way that they might be running their business. How do you become more efficient? How do you work smarter, not harder? Because life is short. And if you have been listening to me for a long period of time, I may as well just say this on repeat, because I truly know and believe that life is much shorter than we think it is. So why not just live it the way that we truly want to live it? And that is what I admire in the younger generations below me, my children. And I know that my nieces and nephews that are just being born now, the world that they're being born into will be an AI world where most of what we had to learn and do, they will never have to, because it will just be taken care of by AI. So it's really fascinating, but I digress. Let's get back to the subject at hand, is how to reinvent your life in 3 months. So I don't know if we want to call it a midlife crisis, because I think that you can feel like this after even working for 10 years. So if you started working in your early 20s, it's possible by your early 30s, you do start questioning, is this what I want to continue doing? Or do I want to try something new? When you're in your 40s, you start to calculate, is this what I want to do for the next 20 years until I retire? Or is there a better way? Is there something different that I could be doing? What if I were to, and then they fill in the blank. And what's interesting is the day that you start having thoughts like that, what if, that's when you're actually becoming very honest with yourself about what you want in life, how you want to see yourself living it, and how you want to feel doing it. I think it's a call forward. I think it is a call forward. I think it is a signal that you have outgrown an old identity and you are craving a new one. And I think it's great. And I think it's time. And I think that all these feelings that you're having are your signals from the universe, from God, letting you know it's okay. This is your time. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about what all of that means. And I think by answering these questions that I've got for you, that I have pulled out of my course, will help you to figure out your bold move forward. So, like I said, I created a method called the bold move method. And I am so sure of the transformation that will happen within 3 months. That's why I'm sharing this with you, because I've done it and I've helped other people do it multiple times over the years. And I realized early on when I was helping other people do this, and I wasn't coaching this at the time, but here's what I noticed happening. These slight changes day by day by day. So someone who started out and they were feeling a little bit depressed, they weren't really happy with where they were in life at that time, a little bit overweight. They were feeling unhealthy. They weren't feeling very confident. They were sluggish in the morning. Like there was literally nothing getting them up in the morning with that spark of energy that they really craved. So when they came to me and they said, this is how I've been feeling, and I just don't know how to get rid of it. I feel like I'm stuck. Have you ever felt stuck where you're just doing what you do? You're going through the motions. You've had this job for a long period of time. It's fine. You get a paycheck. It pays the bills, but there's no other feeling beyond that. There's no fire in you anymore when you used to be fiery and feisty, but that's kind of gone. So this person came to me and I said, well, of course I can help you. I've been there. I've done this. And I came out the other side. So let's start here. And these are some of the questions that I helped them to move toward and to answer honestly so that they could get this clarity that they needed. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read through these questions, but if it helps you, I'm going to put it as a PDF as well. I will attach it so that you can have these questions if you wish. And if you want to join my bold move method, what you can do is I have two options. I have a group coaching, which is really great. And it's anyone who is a high achieving professional. If you are an ambitious individual, entrepreneur, or just someone who knows that you are ready to make a change, join the group coaching or the one-to-one coaching with me. You will be shocked at how amazing you will feel in 90 days. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go through the 3 phases. And I have shortened this up from my course, obviously, but it's going to give you a really good idea on the direction that you need to be moving. So phase 1, you want to reset and realign where you're at. So number 1, answer this question honestly. What part of your life no longer reflects who you are? Think about that for a moment. This could be your role. It could be the routine that you are just so used to being in. It could be a relationship. It could be the job, career, or business that you're running. If you're honest with yourself, which part of that feels like it's expired, like it's no longer who you are, and it doesn't even reflect how you feel anymore? Number two, if you stopped performing and pretending that you're okay or that you're fine the way things are. You know that word fine, when you ask your kids, how was school today? It was fine. We want to remove that word from our vocabulary. We want to feel great. So, what would you admit hasn't been working over the last year or two for you? Is it your routine? Is it a relationship? Is it your business? Is it your career? Is it a part of your career? Could you make a pivot or a shift that would somehow excite you again? Number three, what values do you keep betraying to stay comfortable in where you are? Ooh, that's a tough one. What values of your own do you keep betraying in order to stay comfortable? Are you saying yes to things when you really want to say no? But because maybe you're a people pleaser, because you feel this need to say yes to things, because you always have. But right now, you actually wish you could just say no because you have other things that you want to get accomplished or done. Where are you shrinking to avoid rocking the boat? Do you find yourself in meetings or in conversations with people and you are shrinking? You are not being that bright, shiny, intelligent, strategic person that you know you are. You shrink because you feel like other people are doing it better, when that's really not the case. So let that sit for a moment. That's phase one, where we try to understand who we are right now. Now let's go on to phase two, where it's the strategic rebuild. So once you become clear on what's no longer working for you, we start to map out what would actually feel good and what feels right and what feels aligned with who we are, our values now, not our values 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So I'm going to continue the questions. We're going to go on to number 4. What does success look like for you now? What does success feel like for you now? Are you still chasing the same type of success? Or does that not mean anything to you anymore? I know before I opened a real estate brokerage and I was doing a lot of sales and trying to reach those markers and milestones in real estate, 5 million in sales, 10 million in sales, 20 million in sales. I mean, getting the award and standing on stage and receiving that award, it meant a lot then. But then when I opened my real estate brokerage and I was helping my agents achieve those milestones, my success changed meaning. When I was seeing them go from 30,000 in commission to 400,000 in commissions, I knew that I had succeeded in teaching them and in changing their mindset and in helping them evolve into someone even more talented in business. And then in the same process, they would actually shift their life and their relationships and their finances, which in turn also changes the way that they're living and what they can provide their families. So my idea of success changed at that time. And it was around that time that's when I realized coaching and helping people to accomplish this reinvention. And that's why I say a reinvention isn't necessarily burning the boats, burning it all down, running off to a tropical island, although it does sound like a good idea. Um, it can just be reinventing who you are and that mindset shift. Because when you can change the way that you've been seeing the world and you can evolve that and become really curious, you start to move up these levels in life. And it is phenomenal because as your brain begins to evolve and expand, your way of thinking and your strategic moves forward also become more advanced. It's highly interesting to watch the evolution of this. But let's keep going. Number 5, what are 3 things you want more of in life? And what are 3 things that you no longer want to tolerate? That's a good one. What are 3 things you want more of? And 3 things you will no longer tolerate? What this does is it will give you clarity on boundaries. And boundaries are very important in life. They help dictate where the line of respect is. They help show us the type of relationships we have with people. And they also they help us with our confidence. Once you start establishing boundaries, you can become very confident that you begin making the right decisions for yourself, and those decisions are aligned with what you truly want. Let's go on to number 6. What would feel so aligned, it actually scares you a little? I want you to think about that thing you haven't said aloud. The one that lights you up, but it also terrifies you at the same time. That is the direction of your reinvention. It lights you up and it scares you at the same time. It's a little feeling you've got in your stomach, and you actually start thinking to yourself, is it possible? Like, could I actually do it? Am I brave enough to do this? And you become so confident in the idea that, yes, I could do this, that you are no longer worried about what other people would think. We're going to go on to phase 3, which is sustainability and scalability. Because whatever reinvention, whatever growth or evolution that you move toward, we want to make sure that it is sustainable and it will move you forward for the next 5 to 10 years. So number 7, what always pulls you off track? And how will you protect your energy? So when things aren't going in the right direction, when things start blowing up, when the challenges start hitting you and you're jumping over hurdles because you're in a new territory and life is a little uncertain when you're doing something you haven't done before, what pulls you off track? What are those old habits and old ways of thinking that will come back to haunt you and will pull you backwards rather than keep you moving forward? You need to know your patterns. You need to know your distractions, and you need to know your triggers. And when you know those 3 things, nothing will ever pull you off track again. I can promise you that. Once you learn what your patterns, distractions, and triggers are, nothing will ever pull you off track again. Number 8, what systems or boundaries do you need to avoid to falling back into your old patterns? So there are systems and routines that we can create so that we don't move backwards. Because if we're not happy with where we were, we don't want to go back there. So therefore, we create a structure that doesn't lead us back there. Sustainability for a new way forward requires a structure and a system. So something that is tied into that is a support system. Who is supporting you through this change? Because change isn't easy to go through. And somewhere, usually down the first quarter of your change, you're going to start self-doubt. And you're going to wonder, should I be doing this? Am I crazy? And then somewhere halfway, again, you're going to say to yourself, what am I doing? Why did I decide to do this? Like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why am I starting over? How do I know? Because I've been there. That's how I know that this happens every few quarters. But here's the other thing that I know. If you have a support system, if you have a coach, if you have a mentor, if you have accountability to what you truly want, you will stay the course. And at the end of it, you're going to turn back and you'll say, oh, thank goodness I stayed in it. Because if I had been distracted and gone back to the way that I was, I would never have reached this beautiful place of transformation and of where I really wanted to be. And number 9, what version of you needs to lead the next chapter? What does that version of you look like? Is it the one who no longer tolerates chaos? You no longer tolerate disrespect. You no longer tolerate being triggered emotionally for everything. You know now. And if you take my course, you will also be given the tools where you're going to learn that you will never be triggered again. Stress doesn't really play a part anymore. You will not feel burnt out anymore because you have these tools to use so that doesn't happen again. And so when you move into this next chapter, you do it with everything you need to create this new version of yourself. Reinvention in 90 days is not about burning everything down. It is not about starting from scratch. It is about building what fits who you are now. It is about evolving your mindset and giving you tools and strategies to just make you the better version of yourself. That's all. Inside my Bold Move method, I help ambitious professionals move from confusion to clarity. I help you go from burnout to bold action forward. And all of this leads to happiness, to waking up with that fire in you again, to doing what I'm doing, working on a Saturday. I could be outside. I could be, I don't know, shopping, going for lunch. But I'm here recording this podcast because it lights me up to help see other people's transformations. If you are ready for that kind of transformation, say, oh yes, I am ready for that transformation. I am ready for the next version of myself. Let me know. Go to my website, sign up. There's group coaching and there's one-to-one coaching, but it is something that you will thank yourself for. It is an investment that it will literally pay off every day for the rest of your life. I know that for a fact because I've gone through it multiple times. And each time I have reinvented, everything just keeps getting better. And believe it or not, you do financially end up making better decisions each reinvention you make. I always make sure of that. If this podcast episode, if this YouTube video, if you're watching on YouTube, has spoken to you, please do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Share it on your social media. Subscribe, download the episode. And I thank you for being here, because your next bold move starts right here with me, together. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.